So today what I want to do is take you through the scripts. There's 6 scripts that I want to go through. We've talked about 2 already, the shooter script and the delete me script. I'm not going to talk about those again. We'll get back to some of that stuff later. But today what I want to talk about is the 6 scripts that have to do with picking up objects and opening a door. So the basic core thing that we've done 2 times now in Fortnite and then Unreal Engine, and now we're doing it in Unity. So the concepts and the logic are all the same. You're just doing it in a different way this time with C# scripts and a different game engine, but the game engine works in a lot of ways very similar to Unreal Engine. So we're going to go through that today, and mainly what I want to do is I want to get these scripts working and show you how to apply them, because I'm giving you the scripts. I'm giving you all this stuff. You don't have to type it in, right? But you do have to apply it in the game engine, and they won't work if you don't apply them correctly. You have to put them on the right objects, and then there's dependencies and stuff, and you have to plug in all the public variables. If you don't put all that stuff in there, you're going to get error messages and they're not going to work. So hopefully what we can do today, if you don't have a working door animation that you made in Maya, that's fine. I'm going to show you how to make a simple door inside of Unity that you can use as a stand-in. I mean, you could also make it into your door if you texture map it and stuff, but it will be a working door that we'll use, and then if you import a door, it's going to work exactly the same. So as long as you understand how to set up the structure of the door and where to put the scripts on the door, it's all going to work the same. So that's all you really need is a Unity scene with a terrain, and we'll make a door. And we're going to work, and then I'll start to go through these scripts. I don't know that I'll get all the way through all of them today, but at least you'll hopefully have them all applied today. And ultimately, you need to try to understand how this code is working using the same concepts that we've talked about, conditionals, and which are branch statements inside of Unreal Engine, variables and global variables versus local variables, classes. We've had all of that in the other programs. It's just it's kind of more explicitly written here for you to see, and I've commented here so that you can sort of go through these lines and figure out what's happening. And ultimately you're going to have to do something on your own. So you're going to have to add something to this beyond what we're going to show with these scripts. And you're going to use these scripts as a guide for that. You're going to copy and paste stuff from these scripts and write your own stuff based on how these work. So to start with, going into Unity, let me just show you again how these are functioning. Again, it's nothing we haven't seen before. If I hit play, I have my Unity scene. I do have some ambient sound in here, which is really easy. I can show you how to do that. But I have my door that I brought in from Maya. I'm gonna walk up. I get a sound there. It's not very loud, so it's hear, but it says text hints, and I see that I have 0 skulls. I'm gonna go collect a skull. I have 1 skull, so my GUI is working. I go up here and changes to yellowish orange, and it gives me a another hint. Walk over here to grab another couple of skulls, and it turns green because I should go check it. It says I have 3 skulls. And when I go over there, it opens, a light comes on the inside, and now the door just continuously works. My GUI is not gonna, shouldn't come back up at this point. It's just gonna. So there's a trigger here that is causing it to open. I'll go ahead and turn that off. Everything that we've done before, but now it's being done here with these scripts. So to get these scripts working, first of all, first and foremost, make sure that you download this updated Unity scripts zip file, download it from Moodle, and I want you to replace the 6 scripts that we're going to be working on today. I made some changes as I was going in there and finishing up this file, and added a few things, and I just want to make sure you have the latest ones in there. Now, the important thing for you to know is when you unzip these and you're going to go put them into you're going to go find your class project, and you can do this actually in Unity too. But I have a My Scripts folder inside of my Assets folder. And here's all my scripts. And I want to get rid of, I want to replace the ones for Door Manager, everything but the Delete Me and the Shooter script, because those I know I didn't touch those at all. So everything else I'd like to update. So you could drag those files in here and replace these ones, or you could go into Unity and go to your My Scripts folder, and you could delete the 6 scripts that we're not using, that we're going to use, but we want to replace, or you could drag and then drag in the new scripts to here. What you don't want to do, this is the thing you want to avoid, is you don't want to drag the whole folder that you unzip. Like when you download this, let me just download it. If I click this and download it and go to my downloads folder, it's really fast. And I unzip that. It's going to unzip into a folder. I don't want you to drag that folder into your Unity project, because if you do that, it's actually a folder within a folder, because it made a folder when it zipped it. I want you to drag just these scripts on top of the other scripts. You could delete the other scripts, but if they're connected to anything, you might get an error message until we put the new one in there. So it might be better just to update them by dragging them in and overwriting those scripts. And Unity will update it when you go back into Unity after you do that. So if I drag all of these scripts here into a folder into my My Scripts folder, it will overwrite those. And because you can have the same, if you have the scripts with the same names in different folders in Unity, you will get an error message and there will be a problem. You can't have 2 Door Manager scripts inside of your project. That will not be okay with Unity. It will give you an error message. So it's really important that you don't do that. And I've had students do that before, copying scripts into their projects. So don't, you want to replace the ones you have here inside of Unity. Replace these. You haven't, I mean, we haven't done much with the scripts, so probably, I mean, they may not even be connected to anything. I did connect my um objects, my pickup objects to them. But that's, we don't, and it incidentally, if you don't even have a pickup object, we can make a quick pickup object. That's really easy. So yeah. Um, let's see what- So, yeah, those are all the ones we just copied into there. Um, Joe, do you have them open? No, okay. And you copied them already? Here, let's close this. Or, no, not all of them. You can do it, not part of that, just over. Ignore the save mode. Yeah, let's go look at what you have in there. Just ignore the save mode for right now. And, okay. Uh, so, um, go to, go open it again. Yeah, no, close this. Let me just, this is your project. Right? Go ahead and click on it again when you see the error. So, project you are opening, you select ignore, your project will be continued to incorporate it. Maybe broken. Okay, let's enter safe mode and let's take a look at it. Um, so go to um, go down to where we have the scripts, and so you have more than one script of these. So just yeah, delete everything but the shooter script and the deleting script. Here we go. Okay. Um, all right, so close it again. See if it goes away. Um, how are your scenes going? You have the scenes going. Double click that one. Okay. So it was, for some reason, it was defaulting to a new scene. Why? Maybe that's a sample scene when it was open now. Okay, so go back into your scripts folder and let's drag it. And there shouldn't be any compiler errors with those scripts. They're all working scripts, but it shouldn't give you a compile. The only reason it was given it because you had two in there. So yeah, bad things happen if you have more than one script with the same name. Does anybody else get a safe mode error or anything or? Okay. All right, so if everything's okay and you have the scripts, you should have the 6 scripts that we're going to work on. It's technically I have 9 scripts in here because I have a my script, which we're not even using. I could delete that. I don't really need that at all. I'm going to delete the my script there. And we have the 2 scripts, with the delete me and the shooter script, but the other ones we're going to use, and they should be fine. You shouldn't be getting any error messages from them. Now, what we need to get these scripts working is we need all of the objects that they're going to work on. So we're going to need the door. We'll need a light above the door. I actually added a light inside of my outpost that I'm controlling too, in the script. So you could just add another light somewhere that you can turn on or something like that. I'll show you where the line is and you can comment it out if you don't want to use it. But if you don't have a door, like the Maya one that I have here, we can make one. And you just want to make sure that your door is going to have the same structure as my door that I have here. So this door has the actual mesh I'm calling door, and it has the mesh that I brought in as an FBX. It's got a box collider that I put on it because I don't really need to use a mesh collider for a door. And that's it. There's also a doorknob child to that, but you could have a doorknob or not have a doorknob. It doesn't really matter. Parent to that is the door hinge, and that's on the side of the door, and it has the animation component that I'm controlling in order to open it. And that's what we're going to need to make on our door as well. And then I've got another parent, which I created and added created an empty under your plus symbol next to your hierarchy. And that empty I place right where the hinge is as well. And that's what I'm using to position and scale the door, because the children are always relative to their parent. The parent, when you make something child to a parent object in any 3D program, the parent becomes the world axis for the child. And all the numbers that come up in the channels of the child object is based on where that parent object is positioned. So if your child is positioned right on top of your parent, all the numbers will be 0. Now, if you're doing animation, that makes a difference because your animation is all based on those numbers. So if I want to rotate it and it starts in 0 closed, then I need to give it a parent. And that's what you're going to do on any door that you're going to try to make this work. And this parent object is what's going to have the an audio source and a door trigger script. It's also going to have a box collider that we're making into a trigger. So it's got a big trigger out in front and inside that we're using. It's a box. Yeah.
My gizmo for the empty is in the middle of the door. Do I have to unparent it to move the gizmo to the hinge and then reparent it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me go ahead and I'm going to make a quick door inside of Unity that has this structure so that we can use that and see that that's going to work too. This particular door, since I want to get it out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and make it into a prefab. So I'll go to my prefabs folder. I'll take the door that I have here, and I'm just going to drag it into that my prefabs folder. It'll make a prefab out of it. And then I can delete it out of my scene here. Because now we have a prefab. So now I have no door. Okay, so I want to create this door object inside of Unity. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a 3D object cube. And I'm going to check its channels. And I don't really care about the position. The position is going to be whatever it is. But I care about the rotations here. And I want those to be all 0. I don't want to try to square it up to the hole for the door yet, because this is not the object to do that with. So I'm going to go ahead and select this object, and we'll scale it. And it really doesn't matter if I make this perfect, right? I just need to kind of have a somewhat door shape, because I can go in and I can use the parent of this later on to scale it perfectly to fit the door. So don't worry about it being perfect. Let's say that's good for me right there. And so I won't do anything more to that. But I do want to name it, and I'll call this one door. And I'll just call this, I'll put a door underscore, because I have another one named door. It doesn't really, I mean, if it's in a different hierarchy, it's not going to matter if they have the same name. But I will go ahead and give this a suffix that is like door. Let's put demo on it. So this is my door. I could go to my materials. If I have a good material I could use, like I could make this an ice door, just so it's not plain white. You can make a material if you want to put on it. And that's really all I need for this object, is that it is a it has a box collider, so I can't walk through it. I don't want to accidentally walk through this door. Probably I never would, but it's good to have it. So if it doesn't have a box collider, I'd add component physics, and I'd choose box collider, and it would make it to the size of the mesh. So you really don't have to even change it at all. If it's a box collider that you're going to run into, you don't have to change anything about that. A trigger I would make bigger, but this is not a trigger. It's just a box collider. So that's really all I need for the door. Door is done. I could make a handle and make it child to this main piece of the door, but I'm not going to do that. Now all I really need is a hinge. So I'm going to create an empty now. I'm going to go up and to my hierarchy plus symbol again and choose create empty. I'm going to name it hinge, and I'll put underscore demo just to make this one unique. And I'm going to, oh, I said hunge. Let's change that. All right, hinge underscore demo. It's just an empty. I'm going to drag it on top of the door to make it child to the door, because I want to reset its transforms up here so that it sits right on top of the door. That way I know I don't have to try and move it. It's just going to go where I need it to be. And then I'm going to hit W, and I'm going to unparent it by dragging it into an empty area. Now it's not child because it's not indented in the what would be the equivalent of the outliner. And I'm going to pull it to the right with the manipulator here. and try to place it right on the edge of that door and probably towards the front. So it's kind of at the front edge of that door. And if I want to make sure it's right, I'll just switch to the E key and rotate it. Oh, sorry, I didn't parent it yet. So that's going to be the parent of the door. So I need to now drag the door on top of the hinge to parent the door under the hinge. And now if I select the hinge and I rotate it, the door rotates as you would expect a hinge door to rotate. Control Z undo to put it back. Check your channels, make sure there's 0 in the rotation. So scale doesn't really matter here. It scaled the locator when I parented it and reset it, but I don't really think that's gonna affect it at all. If you were concerned that it was, you could always drag the door off of there, select it, put these back to a normal 1, 1, 1 scaling, and then parent it again. And what you're going to see is when I parent the door under it again, if I select the door, you'll see that the door's scalings are in relation to what this hinge is. But I don't really think the scale would propagate and cause any problems because we're not animating scale. If we were animating scale on the door, I would not want the parent to have weird numbers. Okay. So all I really care about is rotation because that's what we're animating. And now I want to animate it. So for animating this, I'm going to open up Unity's animation controls. So with the hinge demo object selected, my hinge selected, I'm going to go up to Window, Animation, and I want to choose Animation. And this is going to open a floating window that is has a timeline for animating. You can scale it and size it however is going to work good for you to see your object. And I want to create a simple open animation right now. So I'm going to go to the Create button here. It's a real big button right in the middle of the timeline. It's going to create a track, an animation track. Now it's going to open up because it saves it as a file. And you're going to want to put it somewhere. So let me just cancel that for a second. I've made a folder over in my assets called My Anims. And so I would suggest putting your animations in a folder so you can find them. You can see I've got a couple in there already. And so just select your assets folder, right click and create a new folder and name it something like My Anims or just animation, whatever you want. And that's what I'm going to choose when I'm hit the create button here. I'm going to choose that folder or create this in My Anims folder. So I'm going to double click into the My Anims folder. So I have my other animations in there and I'm going to name this one. Let's call it open and actually, let's put door at the beginning. Door, open, and I've already got one, so I'm going to put a underscore demo on that as well, so it's a unique name. You can see I actually did that up here too, because I had some other ones that I was using too. I just don't want to get them confused. You can put a uppercase or lowercase. I'm just going to follow the same convention I used before, so it's not all over the place. And so I got a door open underscore demo. I'm going to save it. And that name does matter. It is something that you are going to reference in your scripts. So make it simple. And remember how you use your conventions. Yeah. Okay, so you're actually not in your assets folder. See, when I clicked that, I was in my assets folder, but I made the My Anims folder in the assets folder. So somehow you are outside of your assets folder. Maybe you made the My Anims folder in the wrong place, but you want to make sure it's inside. No, don't do it in standard assets. Standard assets is the package we brought in. So everything should be done in the My Assets folder. It's at the top. It's always assets. Okay, that's your assets folder. And you want to make your My Anims folder in there.
How do I get this?
Remove component. Yeah, add it again. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we're adding into these projects, and so you want to just, when you add your own stuff, you want to add it at the top level of your project directly in the assets folder. So this is the top level of your project. These are the things which are tabbed immediately in are the folders that I made. And then somewhere down here is going to be other stuff that we brought in, like standard assets or this PBS materials variety pack. I didn't add that. You don't want to add your assets into those package folders, because it will get confusing and it could actually cause problems because, you know, you're adding it to another package. And you might get an error message like you got. So try to be aware that we want to always work at the top level when we're adding our own stuff. And so I've got this here now, and I can add a property. And I want to animate the door to open in Y. So I'm going to click under transform and rotation. So you could do the entire transforms, but we're really only doing rotation. So I'm going to find rotation and click directly on it. And actually there's a little plus symbol next to it. Click on the plus symbol and it will add a couple of keys. Yeah. I'm not sure which. Transform. Open. And rotation, click the plus. You're already in the door. Because you had the door selected when you went there. So everything that I'm actually not the door, but the hinge. So everything that I'm doing inside of this animation window is being done to the hinge object, because the hinge object was what I had selected when I opened animation. So it's automatically, the rotations I just chose were for the hinge object. So I'm going to go ahead and make an open, which is going to be like 30 frames. And I can kind of see on the top here what I have, and I'll just go ahead and It automatically kind of gives you a couple of keys, but they don't really have anything in them except the current numbers, which are 0. So I'm going to go ahead and move this one back, and I'm going to put it on frame 30 right there. And I'm going to use my controls here. The one with the arrow and the line takes you to the next key. So if I click the forward one, it's going to pop right over on top of that key. So I know that I'm on it, because I don't want to be slightly off it, because it'll make another set of keys right next to it and it'll look glitchy. So I want to make sure that I'm right on that key, because I'm going to replace it with with the rotation that I'm going to do. So I want to just go in and rotate this door on this second key here out like it's opening, and over up here, it's probably going to be something like 130. Is probably what I want to use. So I can type in 130 into my Y, and it goes to exactly where I want it. And then I'm going to go down here where it says hinge demo. That's my hinge object rotation. And up above that, there's a little diamond with a plus. You want to click on that to reset the key. So I just clicked on that with my timeline on that. And if I scrub it by grabbing the timeline and with my left mouse button and moving it, I can see that I now have an animation of the door opening. All right, it's there, everything's working, it's going from 0. I can click this one to go back to the 0. And then if I want to hit play, I can see what the speed of that is. That's pretty fast. So I'm okay with that. I'll leave it fast for now. I can always come in here and spread that key out, move it to the right if I want it to go slower. But I'm going to just leave it as a fast open for right now. And so that's done. It's done. It's saved. I don't have to hit save or anything in here. That's not how Unity works. It automatically saves it for you. I can just close this and then look into the My Anims folder, double click into it, and I can see that I now have a hinge object and the door open demo. And it's good I put the suffix on it, because I have other ones in here with similar names. But it's there, and it should be fine the way it is. Now I'm going to change some things in here, because the scripts that I gave you is using a legacy animation system. We are going to talk about the newer system. It's not new, but I like the legacy system for simple animations like this. It's easier to code. It's easier to understand and set up. So I'm going to use that. The only thing is you have to turn it on. It doesn't default to it. So with this object selected, check it and make sure it's the right one. It's an animation clip. I'm going to go to the right of the name and find the 3 little dots. And I'm going to click on, right above that, click on the 3 little dots next to the little lock symbol. You don't want to lock it. I'm not going in here to lock it. I'm going in here to switch to debug. It's currently on normal, I'm going to switch to debug. And when I switch to debug, it's going to allow me to turn on legacy for this clip. And that's all I'm going to do. I just want to turn on legacy. And then I'm going to go back to that same symbol, the 3 dots, and I'm going to put it back to normal again. And what it did was it changed the settings so that now I have a wrap mode that I can choose just play once. Okay, so this is gonna now change the clip a little bit so that I can do some of the stuff that I want to do. If I go back and select my object, my hinge, and go find my hinge, I'm going to see that it has an animator component on it. Again, that's the newer system. I'm going to switch it by removing that component. Click the little 3 dots next to animator and remove the component. And then I'm going to add a component, miscellaneous animation. We were working in the animation thing, not the animator. Animator is a totally different thing. So we made our animation in the animation window, and we're now adding an animation component to it instead of an animator component. And what this does is it just plays the animation. Whatever animation you have plugged in, it'll play it automatically. So if I take this hinge that I just made, or sorry, this door open that I just made, and I drag that animation up here to where it says animation clip and drop it in there, if I hit play, I should see the door open automatically because it's set to play automatically, and you can see it did. And it's set to play once, so it should just open and stay open. If it was looping, it would close again and then it would open again. So it's working. Everything's working with that. Now, what I want for my scripts is I want to be able to open and close the door with the script, because I can have a sort of an open time that I could change. I could make it stay open longer or shorter, whatever I want to do. So it gives me more control if I do a separate close animation and plug it into right here. We have a animation array here that I can hit plus to add the close animation. So I want to do that. I want to add the close animation there too. So to do the close animation, what I would do is just select the door open animation that you made in your My Anims folder, select it. We've already set it to the correct wrap mode, and we're just going to duplicate it. Do a Control D and duplicate it. Change the name to door close. Close, and I'm going to put underscore demo on mine, so it's consistent with the other one. So now I have a door open underscore demo, and I have a door close underscore demo. And it's not going to be the right animation, right? It's an open animation. So I'm gonna double click it to open it in the animation editor, and I'm just gonna change one thing. I'm gonna take the 0 key and I'm gonna bring it down and put it at 30, and I'm gonna take the one that's at 30 and put it at 0. It doesn't matter how you do that. You could drag this down like that. You could move this out to 30. You just don't want to put them on top of each other. But I just dragged my 0 to 30, and I dragged my 30 to 0. I just made them opposite. And that should be fine. That should work fine. And I can check it by closing this. So it's done. Oh, by the way, when you're using this animation editor, you may want to look at your curves sometimes. There's a tab here called Dope Sheet, which I'm currently in, which is easy for moving keys around. The curves tab, if you hit A over here to frame all, it will show you your animation curves. And this is what I would want for a door, something with flat curves at the beginning and end, so that there's an ease in and ease out on this animation track. Okay, and if I wanted this to be more linear, you can move these, you can select these handles and move them. Or you can right click and you can change it to one of these other settings. Left tangent could be linear, for instance, and that would take away that handle and it would make it a straight line. So there's all these different settings. Usually you just use linear or free for the handle to move around. But I'm going to go ahead and close this now. And that should be a door close animation. If I want to check it, I can go back to my hinge and I can plug in the sort of the default animation as being the close one right here. And I don't want this one here, so I'm going to get rid of it. I just have door open and door close. And if I have this on play automatically, what I should see when I hit play is I should see it close, right? So I know that that animation is working correctly. I could go back to that clip and set it to loop. And if I hit play again, I'm just going to see it close over and over and over again. All right. So I don't want to do that though. I want it to be on once. You can see how simple this this legacy animation is. There is something down here where you can see your animations. Like right now, because I made this animation from scratch, there's nothing in there. But I could click over here and choose other. Let's see. Other and find the door that I just made, door, and I want door underscore. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. It's hinge. Wrong name. Hinge underscore. So there's ones coming up here, but they're not the one that I want. Not sure why. But if I chose that object, it would show me what this animation would look like on that object. So, you know, that could be useful. We'll just go back to auto for now. So, okay, so I know this is working. It looks good. I've got the hinge and it's got two animations, door open underscore demo and door close underscore demo. That's all I need, right? That's what I need for my script. And I know that they're working because I've tested them. It doesn't really matter what you have plugged in here to this top one because I'm going to turn this play automatically off. I don't want it to actually open on its own when I play the game. I want the script to do it. And all I need is to have these here in this array. So everything is good there. Let me go ahead and do a file save as, because I haven't saved today yet. Save into our scenes folder. And since we're doing scripts, I'll just call this scripts demo 1. Save. Okay, so I've got my door animation. One more component that I need before I can put the scripts on this door is I need something to position the door and place it. So I need another empty. I'm going to go ahead and to the top and create another empty. I want that empty to be called something that like door position or door parent. Door control is actually a good one. Let's call it that one. I haven't used that one yet. Door control. I'm calling it door control. And I want that object to be child to the hinge. So I'm going to drag it onto the hinge and I'm going to reset it over in its transforms. So it pops right on top of the hinge. And then I'm going to unparent it by dragging it to the empty area. And I want to drag the hinge on top of door control. So it's going to make it child to it. And now I've got door control as the parent, hinge child to that, and then door, the actual door child to that. Now this door control object is what I'll use to position it, but I'm also going to use it to create the trigger. This is where the trigger is going to go, because the trigger shouldn't move when the door moves. So you want it at the parent level. So I'm going to go ahead and position my door now, since I have this node here. Let's just go ahead and I'm just looking at my channels just before I start to see that they're all okay and normal. Nothing weird there. So I'm going to move this and move it and kind of position it in where the door should be. I am going to need to rotate it a bit. And probably I would want to maybe, I don't know, maybe go above it a little bit to see where that is. So I'm looking at the front edge, kind of, and I just am going to get it close. I don't really care if it's absolutely perfect. And yeah, right there's looks good. So I'll orbit down this way, and I want to take a look at, let's just go up a little bit. I want to take a look at the width and height of this, see if it looks like it's fitting that. And then I'll scale it, and because I use the hinge to position this, it makes it really easy to just close that gap. Orbit around, check it. It's close enough for now. I can keep fiddling with that. So my door is in place. And I'm pretty much ready to add the stuff that I need added to it. So I got my door control. This is going to be the object that is going to trigger the door opening. So I need a couple of things. I need first to add component physics, a box collider. Is a box collider that's going to be turned on to be a trigger. Like that's critical. It has to be a trigger. Trigger, you can walk right through. So you check that box that says is trigger. And then it's not going to stop me from walking in. I'm not going to run into it. When I do run into it, it's gonna run the script. And then I just need to position it well. And you don't do that by moving it, because you don't do it by moving it, because that'll just move the transforms of the whole thing. what I want is go to the center and the size. And first, what I do is probably center it. I know that I need to move it to the right in X, and it's probably, you know, going to be like 0.5 or negative 0.5 looks like what I need there to put it right in the middle. And then I'm going to want to scale it a little bit too. So that's down on size. That's below that. I'm going to scale it out a little bit. And then I'm going to want to probably take a look at the Y, scale up the Y so it fits the entire door down to maybe the ground. And then the most important one for making this door work so I don't run into it is going to be to scale it in Z so that it sticks out, so that I hit the trigger well before I'm going to hit the door. Because the door has a collider on it. When it opens, I don't want it hitting my character. That's why I open it really fast. Otherwise, I'd have to wait for it. So I'll move it out, but the problem with that is if I just do that inside here, it's going to be sticking too far into my room. So no matter where I go in my room, I'm going to be inside the trigger and the door is going to keep opening. So I don't want that. I want to move it in Z. So that's up here under center. And I'm going to move that so that it's going to be only a little bit on the inside. And that's fine because the door opens outward. I can walk right up to the door and it's still not going to hit me. I just want it a little bit into the room so I can walk all around here without actually hitting the trigger again. So if I go outside, I'll see how far that goes out. Maybe it goes out too far, or maybe that's good. I'll just leave it there. That's fine. It's maybe a little bit far, but so I've moved my trigger around someplace that I would hit it. And then I need to add the script to it. Now I know that the script that I'm going to add to it, it's called the trigger, door trigger script. And if we go to my scripts, we should probably open it and take a look at it real quick. I don't want to go through it line by line yet, but I just want to look at it. So I'm going to double click it. And I've already got these open. It might take a second for yours to open. But once you do, you're going to see that in the block comment at the top that it says script that goes on the door component with the trigger to require a number of collectibles. So this is the script we want to put on the object that I'm working on right now that has a trigger. And the reason we want to do that is because down here, there's going to be an on trigger enter procedure that is going to open, do some checks for opening the door. Also, it's going to control some lighting. It's going to change colors on lights and stuff like that. And I might want to look here into the variables at the top of the script and see what kind they are. Because if there's any audio variables, that means that I'm going to play an audio sound and I need an audio source on this object. And I can see that there's a public audio clip lock sound. So I need an audio source on this object for this script to work. There's other things like lights and text and integers and strings. All of that stuff that I'm going to want to plug in, even canvas is in there, which means if you're using a canvas object, which is a GUI object, you're going to have a line at the top called using Unity Engine UI. That's something that's not in all our scripts, only ones that are going to reference Canvas, which is the UI. So we're going to bring up some text hints. We're going to bring up some numbers and stuff for how many collectibles we have. So all of that is part of the UI. So I'm going to go back to my object and make sure that I put add for this object. Go back to the door control object. I've got a box collider. I'm also going to add audio source and turn off play on awake, because I don't need this audio source to start playing. There's nothing plugged in the clip part, so it wouldn't do anything, but I don't need it to start playing, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to play it with the script. So I have box collider, audio source, and now I can add the script. So I'm going to go to add component again. I'm going to go to scripts, and I'm going to go find the one that I was just looking at, which is door trigger. This is the trigger that is going to open the door. And here's all the public variables coming up in the inspector that I will have to set by either typing something in or plugging something in. If it says none audio clip, that means I need to plug in an audio sound for this. And it tells me kind of lock sound. That's what you want for that one. This one says none light. I'm going to plug in the door light for it. There's going to be text hints. So there's going to be a text hints object or a text object. And then down here where it says hinge name, if I go back in the script and look at it, that is a string. That's the name of something. In this case, it's the name of the actual hinge. So instead of plugging in an object there, I'm plugging in a name. So in that case, the name that I would plug in would be door control with the capitalization. So when you're working with scripts, capitalization matters. If we use any names, that's what. So if I want to plug that in right now, I would type in door control, no spaces, capital D, capital C. And, you know, I did give you guys some sounds. I don't know if I gave you a locked sound, but you could go find your own sound. I think I might have given you a locked sound, but I have a locked sound here that I'm going to plug in and drag over here to this space right there. Door light, I need a door light. I'm going to make a quick light. I'm going to actually make it part of this door as sort of a prefab so that if I want to make another door, there will be a door light there. So to make a light to plug in, I'm going to use a spotlight that kind of shines from above my door. Just go to your plus symbol for your hierarchy, go to 3D objects. Oh, sorry, lights, go to light. And we're going to do a spotlight. You're going to notice that that spotlight's pointing down. It's got 90 plugged into its X rotation. That's what's pointing it downwards. That's actually perfect for my use. If I want to position this fast, I can do that by making this light, which I'll name door light. Let's just call it door light. Again, I'll put my underscore demo on it just so that this is different than the other door lights I've made. And I'm gonna make this door light child to the door itself. So I'm just gonna pull it right on top of the door, not the hinge or the control, but the door. And then I'm going to reset its transforms. And you see it pops right over onto the door. So now I can unparent it, because I actually don't want it to be child to the door. That would be weird. When the door opened, the light would move. But I did want to position it there. And then I'm just going to move it up above the door. I'm going to move it out a little bit because it's basically in the wall right now. And I want it to face downward, so I'm going to put that 90 back in the X rotation. So it's facing downward. And then I'm going to go down in the properties of this light, the components, and I'm going to pull spot angle up a bit so it widens it out. I'll bring the light up a little bit more. I might need to rotate it because I pulled it out away from the wall, but to get it to shine on the door, I might actually want to switch to rotation and rotate a little bit towards the door. And I'm still not really seeing it. So I'm going to go to where it says intensity down here, and I'm going to pull that up until I start to see that light. At about 4, I start seeing the light. I'm going to change it to a red light by clicking on the color swatch and dragging it over to red. Close it. And then I may want to adjust the range because it's going way beneath the floor. So if I pull that range down, I don't want to pull it too far up because it will actually not hit the ground anymore. But I probably don't need it to go way below the floor. Somewhere closer to the floor would probably be better. And I can go mess with these again to pull intensity up until I actually see it. Or mess with range until I spot angle and range until I see. I don't want it to go crazy. See, if I pull it too far, it's like illuminating too much of the ground. And if I switch to my game mode, I don't know if it's actually, try it a little bit more. See what that looks like in game mode. Okay. And I may want to turn on cast shadows, or I may not. I don't probably really need to cast shadows with this light. So I could keep messing with this light until I get it closer to what I want, but let's just say that's good for now. I got a name on it and I want to parent it under my I don't really want this light to be, as I said, child to the hinge or the door. So I'm going to parent it under the door control. So it's part of the hierarchy, but the door control is not ever going to really move. You could think of the door control almost as the frame of the door. And so this object is not going to move if I parent it under that. Okay, so that's good. I'll do a file save since I'm got that done. And I want to add some of the other stuff in here. So now that I have a door light, I can go back to my door control and plug in that door light by dragging it over and dropping it where it says door light none. So that's plugged in. It'll be able to control that light now, the script. And we have some other things to plug in here as well. There's an outpost light. Again, I could make another spotlight. I have a light actually already here inside of my outpost, but you could just go and create another light somewhere by clicking plus lights and choosing either a spotlight or a point light or something like that. Don't use a directional light, but that would be weird. But I've got a spotlight inside of my outpost, which is child to my outpost, which is widened out to cover the entire inside. And I did put a shadow on that because I wanted it to actually come out of the windows and stuff and hit the ground. And so when the door opens, you actually have light coming out of the door. Otherwise, if you don't have shadows on it, it'll just go through the walls. It'll go right through the walls. So let's go ahead and just plug in that outpost light to the other one, the other outpost light, none light, public variable for this script. So I'm going to pull it over and drop that in. So I'm trying to sort of fill up the things that are going to be needed there. There is a collect target thing. That's how many of the things you want to pick up to open the door. So right now, by default, it's set to 0. I'm going to put like 3 in there so that, you know, and you could change that. You can put 4 or 5. If you're testing, you might want less. And then when you actually do it, you might want more. And then the only ones we don't have plugged in is the text and the canvas, which we haven't made yet. So all of those things are there. Let's go and look at a couple of other things before we move on. I'm going to go to the hinge. The hinge object has my animations, and the script that you want to add to that is the door manager script. So if I go to add component, actually, let's look at the door manager script first. Go to your My Scripts and double click door manager. And if we look at the variables for that, I see I'm going to need some audio for that too. It's got a door open sound and a door shut sound that it plays. It's got some strings for the animation, the open animation and close animation. That's where you're going to need to plug in the name of your animations. And the rest of them are pretty much just for the timing. There is something to register if the door has been opened. And we'll go over that later. So this script is all about running this door procedure that will open or close the door. It's actually just opening and closing the door. It's not checking to see how many things you have. That's all done on the door trigger. The door trigger is calling this script. I have made a PowerPoint for going over some of this stuff. Things that you need to know when you're C# scripting, using comments to make sure that you can understand it and make it readable. Understanding the difference between local and global variables, which we still need to talk more about. Where your curly brackets go. That conditional branch tests are done with if, else if, and else statements instead of the way we did it in Unreal. That GUI scripts are going to have that extra line at the top. That's important to remember. And that equals in a script is variable assignment, and double equals is for branch testing. So when we say a float variable is equals to 0.5, then we are assigning 0.5 to that float variable. when we are doing float variable is equals to 0.5, we're getting the variable to see if it's equal to that number. Okay, so it's a different thing. One is assignment, the other one is testing in a branch or what would be a if statement inside of Unity. You must be able to read your example scripts to apply them. So you want to get good at reading C# scripts before you can actually write them. And what I'm talking about now is we're setting up the door. So the door manager script is going to be on whatever has the animation. And so we want to go back to the object that has the animation, which is my hinge. And we're going to add first an audio component because we know we're going to have an audio source. We're going to have to play some sounds for the door opening and closing. You'll turn off play on awake for that. And then I'm going to add the main script that we're adding, which is the door manager script. And it's got some things to plug in. From the sounds part of it, the open and close. Now, I don't have actually a close sound for this door yet, so I'm just going to use 2 open sounds and plug those in. So I'm going to go to the My Sounds folder. Again, I gave you some sounds. I know I gave you, I'm pretty sure I gave you the lock sound and I gave you the open sound. So you can plug those in. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to plug in the door open, but I'm going to do it twice because I don't have a close sound. And then for the animations, you want to look up here where your animations are and just type the name exactly the way it is. Door open _ demo, door close _ demo. So my open is door open _ demo and door close _ demo. Those are strings that I'm typing in. A string is a type of variable which is usually text. It's any characters on the keyboard technically, but it's usually text for a name. And in this case, it's the name of our animations. And that's all we need to plug in that one. That one's done. So it should find that animation and play it. And then the last thing that we need to do to get this door working right is we need some GUI objects to plug in to the door trigger script. We're going to need those. We need something for the text hints. So the way you're going to make those, let's do a file save. I'm going to make these, and they're going to create automatically a canvas. Now you can see that I've got a canvas object already in my scene because I've made other ones, and they're actually child to there. So when I make mine, it's just going to add to what I already have here. I could delete those, I guess, but that'll just break some other things. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. And I'm just going, when you create it, it'll create the canvas automatically, and you're going to use that. So let's go and create one. I'm going to create some new ones. I have some here, but I'm going to just create some new ones. So I need 2 things. I need the hint text, and I need the collections number that tells me how many objects I have. So let's make each one of those things, and I'll just name them differently than the ones that I have here already. So to start, I'm going to go to the plus symbol. I'm going to go to UI. And I'm not going to do Text Mesh Pro, which has a plugin and stuff. We'll use that later. It has a few more features than the one we're going to use. Again, I'm going to go to the legacy down here, and I'm going to use legacy text. They work the same, actually. It's just that the code is a little different, and my code was written for the legacy one. So I just don't want to have to go back and change all of that right now. So let's use the legacy text, and I'm going to choose that, and it'll create for you a new canvas object, which you can open up by clicking the little arrow next to it, and you should see your text object there, if it doesn't automatically open it. And mine's called Text Legacy. We're going to do the hint one first. So I'm going to do, call this one, let's call it hint text. And I'm just going to put underscore demo on mine, so it's different than my other ones. I know which one is which. So I've got this hint text object now, and I want to make sure that I can see it, because it's actually there. If you go to game mode, if you switch from your scene to game, you might see it in the middle if you have a light background. If you have a dark background, you probably won't see it at all, because it's really small and it's black and it's hard to see. So this is going to be the hint. I want it across the bottom here. So I want it kind of, I want to use probably a lighter text, and maybe something that's not in my scene so it will really stand out, like yellow. I'm going to make like a yellow text. And so I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to change a few things. First, this is where the text actually goes, under text. And I'm going to put just some hint text. We're actually going to replace that with code from in the script. So you're actually going to put the text in the script. But here, I just am putting some stand-in text. And I'm going to go and change the font size to more like 40. And I'm going to go down a little further. I'm going to turn horizontal overflow from wrap to overflow, and vertical overflow from truncate to overflow. And it was cutting the text off without overflow being on. And I'm going to center it by clicking the center text symbol here, and rather than starting on the left or left justified. And then I'm going to change the color swatch here to kind of a bright yellow. Some kind of yellow that I think is going to look good. If I really wanted it to be more subtle, you know, if it's like whispering to me, I might want to make it white and maybe make it transparent a little bit. And let me just try that for the hint. So you have an alpha channel down here. You can pull down to like 0.8. It'll be a little transparent. I made it white. May not be the best choice for me since I have snow. Might not be able to see it most of the time. But I'll close it and we'll see what it looks like. So I see it there. But it's not where I want it. I want it to be down towards the bottom, so it's not obstructing my main view. So the way you do that up here is with your anchors, and it's different than Unreal. Your anchors, it's right now placed in the middle because it's 0.5, 0.5, 0.5 in X and And the pivot is for the rotation down here, but we're not going to use that. So I'm looking at the min max anchors 0.5, 0.5. That places it right in the middle of my screen. And I want to put it towards the bottom. So that's going to be down in Y. So I'm going to go to the Y ones here, and I'm going to type in like 0.2 and 0.2. And you're not going to see it move, because what happened was up here, it actually compensated in the position for one of them. Those didn't take. Let me try it again. It compensated in the position to leave the text in the middle by putting numbers in there. So I'm going to put 0 in there, and I see it move down. I'm actually going to put 0 in all of these and 0.2 here. And now I can see it's towards the bottom. You want to use the anchors to position it, because when I hit play here, it's scaling it according to however big my screen is. And if you want to see it, and by the way, the reason mine's not showing is because of my scripts are turning off because Canvas is turning it off. Let me just take this script off of my Canvas. And let me try it again. Okay, let me just. So what the code is going to do is it's going to hide the canvas by turning this off right here. You can see it's turning on off. So as soon as my scripts run, because this canvas is plugged into another script that's already in there, it's turning it off. Yours won't do that. You'll see it, right? You guys see it? No, it's not showing up. Okay, let's go look at, just make sure that it's set correctly then. Let me go back to it and check my numbers. Yeah, it should be there. And turned on. Fine. Actually, you know what? It's just as easy for me to, I'll just delete this canvas, or yeah, I'll make another one. So I'm just gonna create a quick other one here. Just so I make sure that I'm not telling you wrong. So we'll call this the hint text. Text underscore demo. Enter. And let's just place this back to center or down a little bit. Make it 40. And let's give it a color. Okay, and still in the center for me, so let me just set these back to 0. Oh, no, I don't want this to be 0.2. I want this to be 0.5. Now it's a little bit of a bug that you have to keep going back and typing in 0 after it does its compensation thing there. And let me just make sure that I have overflow on so we see it. There it is, and center the text. So it's right there. I have a new canvas now, so nothing should be plugged in actually. And if I hit play, let me just make sure that it is showing up. Yeah, it's there. And it's a GUI, so it stays with my window. So by using anchor here and these numbers rather than typing in numbers at the top, it's gonna shift depending on how big your game is when your screen is when you run the game. But it'll always be towards the bottom. And that's what I want. I want it always in that area, anchored to that area. Okay, so I think that's fine. I think that text doesn't have to be screaming at me. I'll leave it there. And so I want to now, I've made a piece of text for that. And I want one more piece of text. I want one for the number up here in the corner. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add another one, UI and legacy, and I'm going to go to text again. I probably could have duplicated that one, but I actually want this one to be different. So I'm going to just scale it up to 50. You can click here under font to change the font if you want something more bold. You can actually load in other fonts too. And then I want this to be centered, overflow just in case. Probably won't have a problem with that. And I'm going to make this bright yellow, so it really shows up. So I've got it in the middle again right now, and I want it up in the corner right. So I'm going to go ahead and push this over. What you can see is that 0.5 is in the middle, so 1 is going to be far right. So if I want this towards the right, it's going to be kind of like 0.9 or maybe even 9.5 or something. Didn't take. There you go. And then upwards towards the top is also going to be 0.9 probably. So I'll just do both of those. And if you want it to always be in a similar place, just do the same numbers for min and max. Just for placement, and you can see it compensated, so I'm going to just put in 0, and you can see it's moving now into place. And if I hit play, I should see that sitting up there in the area that I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that. That's fine. The only thing I'm going to change is I'm going to take new text out and put 0 in. So that's my number of collectibles, right? So I wanted that, and I'll go ahead and name this. Let's call this collectibles GUI. All right, so I have my 2 text objects. If I want to not have them show up when I'm just before I actually put the scripts on it, script is going to hide it anyway. I could turn off this right here next to the text part. And that's basically, it's when it's on, it's enabled. When it's off, it's disabled. And so I could go to both of these objects and turn them off because they're not going to be on at the start of my game. But, you know, the script is going to turn them on. So I'll go ahead and save that. and we'll go to the next part. So I want to add the scripts to these. And if I'm go back to my slides here, the GUI stuff, you create your text objects, which we just did. It creates a canvas object for you. And we are going to put something on the canvas object. It'll have the pickup manager script. And that's going to reference the inventory pickup script, which is supposed to be on our, that's going to be on our player. And it's going to have a collectibles global variable in it. And then we've got also a text hint script that we're going to put on the GUI object. We don't actually put anything on the hints object. It's going to cover that kind of from the other script. So pickup manager, we'll go ahead and do that now. We'll put the pickup manager on the canvas object and the text hint script on the GUI object, the hint GUI that we made. So the collectible, I called it collectibles GUI. Wait, make sure my names are not wrong. Yeah, okay. So so hint GUI, I'm going to go and add a script to it. If we look at that script real quick, text hints, there is no public variables on that, so it doesn't need any sounds or anything. All it's going to do is it's going to control enabling the hint so you can see it, and disabling it with a little timer. It's doing that through a show hint procedure that that we'll look more closely at later. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on their script that goes on the GUI text game object. Let's do that now. So here's my text hint object, add component, scripts, and find text hints and add it. Shouldn't require anything to plug in. And then the canvas object is going to require the pickup manager. Let's take a look at that real quick. I'll go to my scripts and double click it, even though I have it open. And the pickup manager, here's that UI line I was talking about at the top whenever you're working with the UI stuff. The pickup manager is going to bring in a collectibles variable by referencing it from an inventory pickup script that we need to put on the player. Actually, I don't think we've done that yet, so we should do that. The inventory pickup script, which is on your first person controller, which we'll put on, actually we should put that on now. That's actually going to, because your controller is picking up, that's what you're running into objects with, that's where you're going to put the global variable that is being tracked in a lot of these scripts. And the way it's being tracked is it's this first one right here. It's a global variable because it's got public static. And that actually makes it into a global variable that will be able to pull it out using this dot syntax that we're using in these other scripts to find how many collectibles you have. It's always coming up here because this is where you're colliding with it, with this character controller. And it's going to keep track of that. It starts at 0, and then it's just going to add to it. And several of these scripts are looking at that. So that's a really important one. Let's go ahead and put that on our character controller. So before we even finish out these canvas ones. So I'm gonna go find my character controller, my FPS controller. We put a script already, the shooter script, on the camera. We want to go to the very top, FPS controller. The FPS controller is what's allowing us to walk around. You can see there's settings in here for walking and jumping. You can actually change those to make your character walk and run faster and jump higher and all that. And you can change the sounds for the footsteps are making, everything. But what we want to do is we want to add the script to it that I was just showing you, that's inventory. Inventory pickup. So go down and add component. And I've already got it on here. I've already placed it on here. And when you place it on, there's going to be 2 spaces because there's really, in the script, there's 2 public variables here. Even though this collectibles one says public, it's static, so it's not showing up. But these other 2 are public. It's for an audio clip for the collect sound and your canvas object. So we'll go ahead and plug those 2 things in. I have to plug something in because I deleted my canvas object and it was plugged in, but now it's not. So whatever sound you want to use, doesn't really matter. Whatever sound you can find available to put in your collect sound, go ahead and stick something in there so it doesn't not have anything. You will need an audio source to this. You probably don't have one. If you look through your FPS controller here, I don't believe by default. Wait, actually, no, it will have an audio source because it has footstep sounds. So you won't need to add an audio source. It's already there. Leave it the way it is. Play on Awake is fine because it's using footstep sounds, but it's not actually referencing that anyway. But so you won't have to do that. You'll just have to plug in your collect sound. And then I'll find my canvas, and I'm going to go ahead and I want to pull the canvas in there. Let me just go back to the script for a second here. Yeah, it's looking for a canvas object here. So plug in your canvas. Now we'll find my canvas. And that's all I need for that script. Now, once that's in there, everything else that references that should work. And we want to go back to the canvas now. And we're going to add the other script that I was talking about a second ago, the pickup manager. The pickup manager right here is referencing the inventory pickup.collectibles. That's actually a reference to something inside of the inventory pickup script. This is called dot syntax. It's all over here. This is part of C#. This is not one that we created. But when you create a procedure, or you have a class or something, or other procedures that are built in, they have certain functions on them that can be turned on or referenced by using a dot after the name. So inventory pickup is the name of the script, and then dot, something in that script. Well, collectibles is our global variable. And so it's taking that and putting it into a local variable here called collectibles count. It's an integer because it's how many things you're picking up. And then it's using that in here to convert it to a string and put it into the GUI text so that it shows up on your screen. Okay, so this script is going to go on the Canvas object. It's called Pickup Manager. I'll go back and place, go to Canvas, add component, and I want to do scripts, Pickup Manager. And the only thing that it's asking me to plug in here on this script is the GUI text. So I have a text object for the collectibles GUI. I'm going to drag that over there so that it's going to show that. And that's what it's doing in the script. If you go look at it, it's going to bring that in. And once it brings it right here, it's pick up text GUI. And once it brings it in, it's just using it for assigning the whatever the collectibles count in from is from the global variable that you're bringing in from the other script. Okay, so let's just make sure that we have everything here inside of this. We've put our Canvas things in. We've got a script on the Canvas called Pickup Manager. It's referencing this text GUI to show it's going to show our number of collectibles in the upper corner. Sorry, this one, collectibles GUI. The hint text is being referenced elsewhere. It's got two things. It's got a script on it that's controlling its visibility, but in that script there is a show hint procedure that is being referenced by the door trigger script. So the door trigger script down here, you're going to see things called text hints dot send message, show hint, and then a message and a text string. That's how it's putting the hint up on the screen. Is it's sending the hint to that other script to display it on that GUI. And this is something that Unity does differently than Unreal. It uses these things called messages to send information like text information from one script to another, from one object to another. And this is how you do it. You have to use this dot send message, again, the dot syntax. And then in this case, actually, it's not just for showing. The way send message works is it's saying, okay, text hints, which is coming in at the top, up here, right here. We plug that in of that GUI object, and then down here where it's doing one of these, it's sending a message. Show hint is the it's going to look through everything on inside of that text hints object that is scripts in procedures in those scripts, and it's looking for show hint. And when it finds that procedure, it's going to run it. And that procedure has an input on it. If you go look at the text hints show hint procedure, there's something inside of the parentheses after the name. Whenever you have parentheses after the name, that's where you put inputs into the procedure. And that's text that we're putting in that other script is going into this procedure in order to plug it in as the message to the text component on that GUI object. And basically what's happening then is inside of Unity, if I select this hint object, this right here, or sorry, yeah, this one is being replaced. I thought I changed that, but I remade it because I remade the canvas. Some, I typed this in before, some hint here. So that's where it's changing it in the script, is that place right there. And so this line is plugging that text in. That's the input to that show hint procedure. And you'll see that I'm using message in a similar way, but this one's running a door check procedure that is in the door manager. Okay, so and that's on the hinge. So we're plugging in the hinge name there. So there, it's being used in multiple places in a similar way to send these message and run these procedures in these other scripts. It is more, in some ways, more complicated maybe than what we did in Unreal Engine with blueprints, but it's the same logics of what we did there. Yeah. Yeah, that's where they're coming from, is right here. This is where they're typed in. So I'm keeping them pretty short. It's one line usually. And this is, I don't want to get into the deep on this logics here, but this is what the trigger is doing when you're going up to the door each time and you're hitting the door collider, the trigger, and you have a certain number of collectibles. If you have none, then what's going to happen is it runs through this if, else statement. The first one, if the collectibles global variable is exactly or actually greater than or equal to the target number of 3 or 4 or whatever you put in there. If that's true, then it's just going to run the send message door check and it's going to open the door. It's basically door check in the way this is written, just opens the door. Probably a better name would have been door open. But so it's just opening the door. Else if, so the way an if statement works is if it's true, it's going to do that. If it's false, it's going to drop to the next thing. And else if is the way you write another condition. It automatically looks for the next thing. And in this case, it's looking, is that global variable greater than 0 and double and is and less than the target number. So if you're, say your target number is 4, that means you've got 1 collectible, but you don't have 4 yet. So you have 1 through 3. And it's going to give you some other thing. In this case, you're going to get an orange light and you'll get a different hint. Still locked, but I'm on the right track. And then if neither of those things are true, you don't have 4, you don't have 1 through 3, you got to have just 0. You've never picked anything up. And in this case, it drops to the else, and that's all there is left. It tells you, it turns the HUD on there. It plays the lock sound. It puts up the color red, and it says, maybe you need something to open the door. Right, so these are the 3 logical things. You could have more. You could have multiple else ifs as you go down, if you wanted to. But these 3 are kind of covering a lot of that. And then it's also checking up a little further in this script, whether you have the full amount and whether it's open, whether the HUD is up or not, because it's going to turn the light green. And give you another hint as well. So, and there's actually reasons for not putting that stuff down here, because you want it to stay up longer, actually. So this script is on there. We've got all of these on there. The only thing that I want to make sure that we finish out before we test this is I want to make sure that we have our collectibles there and have the scripts on those. I have one that I've already made that, but let's say I don't. Let's say I don't have any collectible thing. And I want to make something simple just to test this, right? I'm just going to use a cube. I'm going to create something simple here, a 3D object, and let's just make a, yeah, let's make a cube. And let's say this is just going to be like, let me make sure I'm in my scene view and not my game view. And this is going to be my collectible. And we'll just, we'll scale it a little bit like that. And it's going to spin. And maybe we give it some kind of color. I'll go to my materials and let's say we want this to be pink. Okay, so that's my collectible. I'll call it cube collectible. So the collectibles, for picking up objects, we need the object pickup script to be on the collectible object itself. And I'm also going to need a box collider that is going to be my trigger. So I need those two things. And yeah, let's go ahead and put that on there because it's going to reference inventory pickup, which we just put on our player. Oh, another thing that, let's go back before I forget. Go select your player one more time, your FPS controller, and make sure it's tagged player at the top. All right, without that, a lot of these collision things are not going to work because they look for something tagged player. And it's a built-in tag that's not on by default, and you got to turn it on. So make sure that's on, otherwise it won't work. Okay, so let's go to this object here. My other collectible objects had all kinds of things on them. If I go to my prefabs and drag one out, for instance, and I look at it, or actually, yeah. If I look at this skull object and open it up, I see that there is a top node, which is nothing but a center because I brought this in from Megascans, and so it has that. And then the actual stuff that I'm using, the box collider itself, the mesh renderer, all of those things are going to be set to trigger. They're going to be on the mesh. And here's the object pickup script too. So, and then I have also a light and a fire complex, and all that stuff's child to this sort of top node. Now, if we're doing something simpler and we're just doing a cube, I'll go ahead and delete that. Then all I really need to do is add component scripts object pickup. That's going to rotate it. And then I need a my box collider for this to be turned to trigger, and I probably want it to be bigger than the actual mesh. It always sizes the box collider according to the mesh. So if I need to make it bigger, I'll go to scale here, and maybe I'll just make it like 2 by 2 by 2. And I can see it's bigger now. All right, so with that there, that object should be a pickup object. If I go back and look at my object pickup script, there's not much here except rotating the object using a variable that we can change and then plugging it into a transform.rotate line of C# code. And then on trigger enter, so we have to have our box collider set to a trigger, and it's looking for something tagged player, and it's going to do the pickup, run, send a message to the player to run the pickup, which is going to be inside of my inventory pickup script, which is right here. That's going to play the sound and turn the HUD on. So all that should be there. I just need to go back and just maybe look at these and make sure I have everything plugged in. So I'll go to my player FPS controller and check my script there and make sure I've got that stuff plugged in. I'll go to my door and make sure that I'm not forgetting to plug. So here's one that the hint HUD I didn't plug in yet. So it says none canvas. I can see that that's not plugged in. I'm going to go look at that script. This is where names are kind of important. So that is the pickup manager. Actually, sorry, that's not the pickup manager. That's the door trigger. And it's important that you name these things so that you can tell what it is that you need to plug in. So yeah, I'm using Canvas there. So it's not the actual object, it's the canvas object. So I'm going to plug canvas object in again. So that's all plugged in. Text hints. Oh, here's where I'm plugging in the text hints object. Let's bring the hint text object over and plug it in there. And that looks like everything. I've got 3 targets, so let's duplicate this thing 3 times. I'd probably want to make this into a prefab. So let's just do that. Whoops. Cube collectible, bring it over and drag it into your my prefabs folder to make it into a prefab. Turns blue, so it's now a prefab. That way, if I need to change something, I'll change it on the master object, and it will propagate to all the other ones. Then I can just take this object and duplicate it or drag it in again, whichever I want. I'm going to duplicate. So I need 3 of these. 3 objects to pick up. And we'll test it. Now, if actually, it's probably not bad if I try it without checking every single thing to make sure it's plugged in, because if something's not plugged in, I'll probably get an error message and it'll tell me, well, we'll read it and see, but I got no compiling errors, and you shouldn't, because you're using my scripts, and my scripts don't have compiling errors. But let's go ahead and see if actually I have everything plugged in. So we'll go and try to pick up something first. Actually, let's walk up to the door before we, it's kind of hard. I place these kind of close. Okay, so I'm not getting my sound, and I am getting an error. Let's see what that is. Probably don't have something plugged in. So when you get an error that it's red across the bottom left here, you click that to bring up the console, and it will show you what it is. And a null reference exception, that is an error, meaning something didn't get plugged in. It's looking, when it says null, that means I can't find this. It's empty, null, nothing. So a null reference exception says, object reference not set to an instance of an object, door trigger, line 66. So let's go look at where door trigger is. And that's going to be on my door control. We'll go to the bottom and just check it and make sure everything's plugged in. Okay, it looks like everything's plugged in. So let's go to line 66, and inside of this door trigger script, I don't know that the error is on that line, but it's somewhere close to that line. And I'll go look at that door trigger script. We'll go down to where around where line 66 is, and it looks like, oh, it's something probably to do with the audio. Maybe I don't have an audio source on there. Let's go check. Go back. I do have an audio source. Okay. So is the sounds plugged in? Door lock sound is plugged in. So that's what should be coming up. Let's go back and look again. So get component audio source, that means the audio source should exist there, which we do have. We just checked that. This is sending a message to HUD on, and that is on the object that I'm colliding with, which is the inventory pickup right here, HUD on. And so this is referencing turning on the HUD for the collections. All right, let's go back and just make sure that I plugged in the Canvas stuff right. Okay, here's the hint HUD Canvas and the hint text hint demo. That's correct. Canvas object is plugged in. Let's just go look at that. So the Canvas object is getting plugged in. And that's called collect HUD. And it's enabling and disabling it. So I think, yes, I don't see any reference to the child of the Canvas object here. I haven't I'm not actually doing that in this script, so I'm gonna go back here, and I think this error is because it's not finding this object right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and okay, so yeah, that's just showing and hiding. Let me go back here and try it again. So I want to see if if I go pick up these objects, the same thing happens. Okay, pickup's working. Getting the sound that I need. I'm not getting my HUD. Okay, there I got my text hint. Okay. So that's fine. They're not getting my text. Okay, so it has to do with the door trigger, which is on my door control. It is set to trigger. I do have an audio source. Hint text demo. Okay, this is wrong. The hinge name is not door control. Okay, now it's working. So my collider is too big on that door. Hit it really early, but that was it. I had the wrong name for the hinge. And, you know, it's interesting because it wasn't totally apparent by the error that that was the problem. Because it was telling me that the error was on the on door trigger script when actually, and it is, I mean, well, no, it's not. Yeah, it was going through the dependencies to the other script, and it was actually, the error was on the it wasn't even on the hinge itself. It was on sorry, yes, it was on the hinge. I mean, it was on the door trigger script, but it didn't have to do with what I thought it had to do with. Looking at the line number there. Let me just see if line 66, it's somewhere close to there. Oh, yeah, line 66, hinge name. It was absolutely correct. So it did absolutely, it was the correct line. Line 66 is where the hinge name is being referenced, and that's where it was failing. So what do you guys think? So the problem is that I had the wrong name plugged in right here where it says hinge name. I had door control instead of hinge demo. And the hinge is called hinge demo. It's not door control. Yeah, we could do it that way too. So I'm doing things in lots of different ways to show different ways of using variables, like string variables. And so, yeah, we could do game object and then extract out what we need from there. Yeah, I think it, I wanted to show a lot of different ways of doing it. So there's multiple ways you can do this, actually. So anyway, yeah. Because it's not an object. You type out the name. Okay. So, okay. Everything's working. And I had to just make sure that I got all the pieces in there, plugged in all the variables correctly. And I do want to go over all the scripts too, but we're not going to have time to do that today. And I might be able to actually do that on a separate video and just upload it for you guys to go through on your own. Because it's kind of, talking about scripts is kind of boring. I did go over how these scripts are working though, and how they're connected. And I think that going back to this, what we have here is we have stuff that's on the FBS controller that really has to do with picking up collectibles and keeping track of that. And that's being referenced by a lot of different scripts. And then we also have a shooter and delete shooter script on the camera and a delete me script. And, you can plug in anything you want. We'll talk more about that shooter script later, but if you look at mine, why my audio keeps, I think it's but I'm throwing snowballs. basically the same. And actually, it's going a little fast. But it works the same, but I just downloaded a Megascan of a snow clump and made it into a snowball as my projectile. And got a sound of throwing it. And then I'm thinking that I'll probably put an explosion on that projectile so that, and not put like an explosion sound and make it really small. And so that it looks like the snowball kind of turns into snow and when it hits and explodes a little bit, when it hits objects. But I'm also planning on using that for my flares. So I'm going to go into this outpost, grab a flare, and then I'm going to throw the flare in order to light the fire, the signal fire. So this basic functionality is all working, and we kind of went through why it's working with our pickup objects, because they have colliders, because they have triggers, and it's using something called on trigger enter for a lot of these. So on trigger enter is a very common one to use. And we used a lot of triggers in our Unreal games too. And you can create an empty and put nothing but a trigger box on it. Like add nothing but a trigger box to it. And then you can have a trigger out in the middle of nowhere. And I'll probably do something like that for like a booby trap. And we could do that for sounds and other things as well. I've done footstep sounds using triggers like that just spread out over a certain area, and then like water, and then when you walk into the water, it's going to change to water footstep sounds. Incidentally, while I'm thinking about it, the way you get some kind of ambient sound in your world, all you do is add an empty and a sound source to it. So I have an empty here called ambient sound. And all it is, hit the plus symbol, create an empty. Let's say I wanted water sounds over by my beach. So I could create an empty and name it like beach sound or something. Move it over close to my beach. So the overall ambient sounds, when you add an audio source, and you can just plug in a clip. So I just plugged in a clip. Let's say I want to plug in a different clip for this one. I don't know that I have a beach sound, but let's go to my sounds folder. And I think I gave you guys a hillside sound. So, and I don't actually have it in here. So let's go look in my downloads, because I know I downloaded that zip file. Starter sounds. And so here's the hillside atmosphere one that I gave to you guys. I'll bring it in. And let's go. So when you do an ambient one, like this ambient sound one, I just reset my transforms and put it at 0. It doesn't matter where this is in the world if it's an ambient sound, because it's going to be the same everywhere. So it's a 2D sound. And I plugged in my Thriller ambient loop, and I'm playing it on awake, and I'm looping it. And that's why it's coming on, and it's just continuously going. Now let's say And then it's 2D down here because it's set right here to spatial blend on the left to 2D, which is the default. So let's say I turn this one off. I'm not going to play on Awake on this one. It's not going to be there now. And instead, let's go to this beach sound one, or actually it's going to be hillside sounds, but it doesn't matter. And I'm going to plug in the hillside one that I just brought in. And if I play on Awake and loop it and I leave it on 2D, when I hit play, it doesn't matter that I'm not close to the beach. That where it cuts out, I think that's this one that I'm connected to, because it doesn't do that on my machine. So you can, that sound, it's kind of like really white noise, but that sound is 2D sound. It's supposed to be like wind blowing and stuff. Now, if I go in and switch this spatial blend to the right here, which is now a 3D sound, and you can see what the 3D sound fall off is here. And you can actually change that. It's a logarithmic fall off, which means it falls off really, you can see really fast. I might not hear it at all. Let me see if, see, no sound. Now let's try running towards. So I still don't hear it, and it may be that it's because of this logarithmic drop off. It's going from 1 all the way down in very short, so it's not going very far. I may want to change that to something like linear roll off, or a custom roll off where I can control it. And let's just see if I can hear it now. A little bit. Let's run over towards the water and see if louder, you know. So if you're working on your aesthetics, you're going to want some ambient sounds in there. You're going to want sound effects too when you pick up things and do stuff, but you're going to want some ambient sounds. And you can add in those through an empty like this and place them wherever you want, either as 3D sounds. A combination of ambient and 3D sounds is going to make it probably more interesting and more realistic to have stuff like that. Okay, so we went through all the door stuff. We went through the GUI stuff. So I can upload this also to the Moodle, so you guys can look at it if you want to while you're trying to get this stuff working. Who got it working on their machine? Okay, couple people. So go through the video, and you know, the main thing is you set up your door correctly, and you place the scripts on the right things, plug them in, and if you get an error message, it's probably going to be like I had, a null reference exception, meaning that something is not plugged in correctly. And basically, it just can't find what you're trying to reference.